Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to a new tutorial. I'm gonna show you how to make these lamps with geometry nodes so that you can have more control over how they look like. First of all, I have here a completely empty scene. I deleted pretty much everything. Lamp, so let's go ahead and start with it. So I'm gonna just Shift A, add a new mesh. It doesn't matter what it is because we're not gonna need it. It's just gonna hold our geometry nodes. So yeah, in this window over here, we can just go for geometry node editor and create a new one. We can call this whatever. So let's go for lamp 15. And with control and right click, we can delete the first geometry. We don't really need this node for now. We're gonna start with a circle. So it's gonna be a curved circle. We're gonna plug it in, and this circle right here, and we want to instance a lot of lines in this circle. So for that, let's instance some points, and let's create our line. So line, I'm gonna use a curved line and put it on the instance, and I want this to go for the negative. Great, now we have our lines. Let's make it so that we can control the height of our lines so that it looks like a spiral. So for that, we can each of these instances have an index. So if we go for the this index just makes a like it assigns a number from 0 to whatever. It's gonna be from 0 to 31 because 0 counts as an instance. So with this information, we can scale these lines. So scale instance, since these are instances, as we can see, from instance to instance, and we can scale this factor over here in the scale. As we can see, it kind of works, but we don't have much control. So first of all, we need to kind of normalize this. Instead of going from 0 to 31, we can make it say that everything from in that range, just put it in from 0 to 1. So for that, we have a map range, and this is gonna be our value, and our max value is always gonna be the amount of resolution that we have, or the amount of points that we have, -1. So we can grab an integer, since we don't, this just gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without decimal points. We can put it on the resolution and then on our max and just subtract. So math and subtract 1. Great, and now if we create a lot of lines, they are always gonna come from 0 to 1. This is our biggest scale, and it goes from 0 to 1. We want it to go like from, I don't know, from something else that is not 0, because our first one is gonna be 0. We are gonna lose it. So if we grab here a math node, so math node, and we add, I don't know, we can add 0.1 so that our first line, we don't lose it. Okay, it's working. If we multiply these, we just make the effect bigger, or like stronger or lower, as you can see. And if we want to delete this effect, since we are map ranging it, if here we put a 1 to 1, like everything is gonna be 1, and if we put here a 0, our effect's gonna be visible. So if we want to have like a value between a value which is only 0 and 1, that's pretty much a boolean. So we can add a boolean, and this just gives us a value between 0 and 1. We can put it over here, and if we click this box, we can turn on the effect or turn it off. Okay, we're good in this front. Let's take our circle, we're gonna need it, and just put a join geometry, and we can join it with this over here, and we can preview it so that we can have our circle with the lines. Okay, let's instance our, if we change the height of this line, we can just change the overall height, and we can move this multiply to change the effect strength. So yeah, let's instance our lamps in the cables. So right now we have these scale instances, which we want to, in which which are these lines over here. You can see here only these lines, and we want to instance a lot of lines in these points here. So we could use like spheres and stuff, but I think if we instance lines, we have more control over the profile of our lights. So yeah, let's instance on points again. Let's preview this, and we are losing everything because we don't have here an instance. We can just grab this curve line, put it into the instance, and make this shorter. Yeah, shorter. As we can see, we have all of our lines which are instances of in every single cable that goes down. But we can also see that the first one is a lot smaller than the last one. This is because we scale the instances, and the scale actually persists. So if we realize, as we can see, the scale, it's back to normal. And now we have these lines, but they are also instancing on the ones on top, because we have 2 points here. We have the point on top and the point on the bottom. So to tell Blender that we only want the ones on the bottom, we can grab an endpoint selection, and this just tells Blender which one is the first point or last point. If we plug this in, and then we put the first point on 0, we can see that we only get the last one. But we don't really want that, because if we want to instance more lights, this will tell Blender that we only want the last one. But we can tell Blender that we want everything but the first one. How we do this is just with a Boolean math. Boolean math over here, and if we put this into not, this is gonna tell Blender like everything but this. So if we select the start location and then we put 0 on the first location, it's gonna take everything from here. So if we change the resolution of our line that we are instancing, this one over here, and we change the resolution, or in other words, put more points into it with a resample, as we can see, we have control over how many lights between the cables. I'm gonna put this on 2 for now. 2. There you go. Okay, now we have to add thickness to our lines. So for that, it's very easy. Just we have to convert it into a mesh. So to mesh, curve to mesh, and we have to get a profile. So our profile is gonna be a circle. It's gonna be it has to be a curved circle, so because this only gets curves. Okay, we are getting somewhere. Let's lower the radius a bit, and we could leave the lamps as cylinders, but I think it's much better if we change the profile. To change the profile of our curve, we have to first set the radius. Set curve radius, and as we can see, we can set the radius over here as we can over here. But this has like this diamond, which actually accepts a lot of values between like whatever we want. And to get these values, we just need to know like either the length or the factor of our line. If we add a factor for I'm sorry, parameter, line parameter. This will give us our factor, our length, or our index of every single line. But we only need the factor because it's a number between 0 and 1. As we can see, the profile changes with the factor. And we also need to resample curve, because if we mute this and then let's add a float curve, which just this transforms our values between 0 and 1, which is this line over here. As you can see, we have 0 and over here 1. If we change this one, we can see that it changed the bottom value. And if we change this 0 over here, we can see that our top value changes. And we can do this like in between, but since we are not resampling, we don't have any points here to actually change. So if we unmute this, we can see that everything is changing. This is gonna be our like the resolution of our lamp. So for this, I want a little bit more control. If we make this bigger, we have more control on the lines. So yeah, let me put these two over here and this over here, and I'm just gonna kind of create a nice profile for our curve, something like this and something like this. And now we have a little bit of our little bit of control of our lamps. We can also change the thickness a little bit, and we can also fill the caps so that it's not hollow. And let's just change the resolution of our circle over here so that we don't have lamps. Great, it's starting to look okay. We can grab these instances over here and join them together because we also want them. And I think we are pretty much okay. We just need to add thickness to everything that we want. Yeah, if we change the resolution over here, we can see that we can add some levels to our lines. Great. To add thickness, we just need to do the same as we did with the lamps. So for this, we just need to convert them into a curve. So over here, convert them into a curve. Let's combine this and join this. We delete this. And if we want a little bit more control of our thickness, because as we can see, if I make this really small, it just disappears. If we want it to be smaller, we can set curve radius. Set curve radius right behind, and we can make this. We have a little bit more control over the thickness of our line. We can do the same with this, with the top circle over here. So it's just grabbing this, putting it over here, connecting these two. And now we have thickness on the top part. Make it a bit bigger. So yeah, this is pretty much the GeometryNodes setup. Let's change a little bit the look of our light. We can change the height. We can change the overall height, and we can change the effect strength. Just like this. And since we are scaling it, let's change the effect, make this a little bit smaller. And if we change this add node gives us like the overall height of our lines. And we also need to realize instance before we set the curve radius. We just take this one over here so that the scale doesn't change. Okay, perfect. We have a little bit of our lights. Now let's go for the materials. I'm just gonna use two materials for this lamp. So if I drag the corner over here, I can create multiple windows. If I right click, I can join areas, and we can change this into the shader editor. And I like to have my materials inside my GeometryNodes group. You don't really need to do that. You can just create materials and apply them. But I like to have them over here so that we have a little bit more control. I'm gonna add 2 materials. The first one is gonna be our black material, so black, and the second one I'm gonna create one, and it's gonna be called light. Sorry. Perfect. Now let's set our materials. Let's make the black black, and let's make the light emissive. So emission, let's put it on white, and the strength, let's make it bigger. Let's go into material preview. I'm gonna turn off my world, and let's see which one is the one that we want. So if we set material in our geometry nodes, we can put it in between and just select the material that we want. So right now we have all of these in black. I'm gonna see. Yeah, so this one is also gonna be black, and I bet the last one has to be our light value. To actually make these look like lights and not only like spheres that glow, I have a really nice trick in the materials. So if we go into our materials with the light, we can make shader and put a glass in between, and with a Fresnel, which only gives us like it gives us these edges, which is just the angle in which the camera looks at the faces, and we can use this as our factor here. And if we make this a little bit more with a little bit more contrast with a color ramp in between, we can make this a lot more contrasty. And yeah, if we change it over here, and just there you go. So yeah, if we put the white on one side or the white on the other, we can invert our color, which is really useful. But yeah, right now we just need to if we don't see much of the effect, is because the IOR is a little bit too much. So if we take a look at this over here and make the contrast a lot higher, something like this. Let's see how it's looking. Okay, now we have this edge of our glass, and if we change the IOR, you can see that we create like glass around our object, which makes it look like it's actually a glass bulb. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. We can control our all of our parameters from here, but the thing is that if we duplicate this and we change one of the parameters, that maybe we want that, but it's gonna change on every single one of them. So if we want a little bit more control over how our parameters, like our lights, look like, because we want multiple of them in the same scene, we are gonna need our group output node. We can just add it from group output, and it's over here. And these values over here we can take like values from here to our node group, which is over here, and this node group will let us change those values. So our first value, I think it's gonna be this one, our integer, which is the amount of cables that we want. So if we change this, we can see that we are changing the amount of cables. We can also, if we resample this curve, well, yeah, we can also change multiple values. I don't know, instead of changing this with this over here, turning off our spiral, we can create like a little node over there and plug this in, and now we have a boolean here that can control our spiral. What else can we change? We can change the overall height, we can change the multiplication, and yeah, these are gonna be our values, and if we change them, everything changes. We can change our resolution, or the amounts of lights that we want, so we can have a lot, we can have only one. What else can we change? We can change, I don't know, we have a lot of control over these, but yeah, if we want to change like our light radius, we can just either multiply our radius over here. So if we add a math node, multiply, we can change the radius, and we can grab this node over here and plug it over here. If we want to rename these values over here so that we don't get lost, we can either, like, if we see these changes from 0 to 1, so this is our on off, so we can put on slash off, or maybe this input, which just is the amount of light, so we can change it to light. Or maybe like this is our height, we can change it. And yeah, you get the idea, it's just like that. So now if we duplicate this, sorry about this, now if we duplicate this, we can change these values without changing our other values. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, this is pretty much how I make most of my lamps. You can see my other tutorial. I think it's really long, but if you are up to it, I have a lot of cool insight on how I make these lamps. I'm just practicing. I am not an expert on GeometryNodes, but it's a little bit how I play around. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you next video. Goodbye.